Hey, what's up, guys? Derek Wetmore, Matthew Coller here for the Sports Take Show, where we take about sports. It's a lot of fun. Today's Sports Take is about Sam Bradford and the trade the Minnesota Vikings made just before the regular season began. After the Vikings fell to 6-5, ESPN's Bill Barnwell wrote what I thought was a smart piece, Matthew, about how the trade should be viewed as underwhelming or as a failure. Matthew, you contend the opposite. You think that basically no matter what happens, the Vikings made the right trade. Can convince me why your side is correct.
It's all about the window for the Vikings to win. They went into this season coming off of an 11-5 year with a defense that has had a lot of assets poured into it in the form of first-round picks, and it's basically hitting its prime. Plus, they're one of the older teams in the NFL, so they were thinking, look, we've only got a couple of more years with this defense, if not just this year, to win. So we have to do everything we can to win now, as opposed to trying to go out and get another quarterback that would have put it together with paper clips and glue, that instead they go out and get this rare opportunity to get someone who was really, really good with Philadelphia last year. Not unbelievable, not Cam Newton, not Tom Brady, but very, very good. And their expectation, the Vikings, was that all they would need is real good or even just solid quarterback play in order to be competitive. And I would say that they've been right so far, that they have been competitive, and they're just a couple of plays away from winning 3 games that they lost. One is because of a field goal kicker. Another one, they throw an interception on a final drive, but they're right in that one. So, I mean, the way that I look at it is they were right to say that their roster was stacked, but some unforeseen circumstances have really torn this season apart. But that does not make it a wrong move, because you can only judge it for what they were looking at the time.
Yeah, so I agree with the not looking at things in retrospect, but I think Barnwell's kind of doubling down on a stance he took initially with the trade. And so let me play devil's advocate. I'll sort of espouse his opinions here, and you can argue for whatever the heck you want to. He says there's not a significant step forward. While Bradford has played well, he's been very Sam Bradford. He says that Shaun Hill wouldn't have been a big step down for this team yet. It sounded like you disagreed with that point.
Well, Shaun Hill has not been a starting quarterback in the NFL since 2010. He's in his late 30s. He can't move anymore. He throws a change up on every pitch, more or less. And the one game that he played was great evidence that Shaun Hill can fill in for one game, but they got 0 offensive touchdowns in that game. And he moved the ball a little. He made one nice pass down the sideline to Stephon Diggs. But first of all, I don't know how anyone could think that Shaun Hill would hold up over a 16-game season with the amount of pressure that's been brought on him and the amount of hits that Sam Bradford has taken. He can't move in the pocket. He can't really throw the ball down the field or short passes either. Can't fit the ball into tight windows. I mean, he is just barely hanging on by a thread of being an NFL quarterback at this point. It would be fine if Bradford got hurt and he had to come in for a game. You could possibly win that game. But over a season, you're talking about a huge difference in win total between playing Shaun Hill or whoever you would have filled it in with, Geno Smith or E.J. Manuel or Michael Vick or any of the people that were potential pickups, Mark Sanchez. You're not talking about being 6-5 right now. You're talking about being at the bottom of the division.
But I think what fans get hung up on, and what I was certainly most focused on at the time, was the first rounder that the Vikings are giving up now. So if this season doesn't hit pay dirt, well, now you can't really fix your offensive line next year in the first round of the draft either without another significant move. So with considering the value of a first round pick, couldn't you still argue that a guy like, forget Shaun Hill, but you mentioned him, Mark Sanchez or somebody like that, or go make a run for Colin Kaepernick, and you wouldn't have to give up as big of a draft asset as a first round pick? Could you not argue that one of those quarterbacks plus a first-round pick equals more valuable than Sam Bradford by himself?
Well, again, if we're going back to how it would have been looked at the time, and Colin Kaepernick didn't even win a starting job against Blaine Gabbert. Now, he played a pretty good game on Sunday, but he has not exactly lit the world on fire this year. He's been a well below average quarterback. Also, and the thing is that, I mean, with Sam Bradford, I just don't agree with looking at his entire body of work and judging it off of that. Even going back to 2009, 7 years ago, the NFL has changed in that time from what even the league averages in adjusted yards per attempt, interceptions, yards per attempt. All those things are better now in the NFL. It's easier to pass than it was before. So when you're evaluating those numbers from 7 years ago, you can't look at them with the same eye as you do the Sam Bradford's numbers over the last 2 years, because when Bradford went 7-9 and put up the numbers he did in his rookie year, I think he won Rookie of the Year. I mean, those numbers at that time were not bad, but by today's standards, they are. Now, that's not to say that Bradford has had a good career or that his year in Philadelphia was incredible, but it was pretty good, and it was really looking like that could be the real Sam Bradford. If you think about, I used examples in my pieces or in my article of Alex Smith and Eli Manning and how they started their first 50 games. They weren't that good either, and they've become great quarterbacks, and those are guys who were drafted first overall just like Bradford, or Alex Smith is at least reasonably good. And that's where I see Bradford is just like Alex Smith, a guy who's reasonably decent, not Cam Newton, not Tom Brady, but can win a lot of games on a good team, and that's exactly what Bradford should have been able to do this year, and his performances have been worthy, but they've lost every offensive lineman, their starting running back, every backup offensive lineman. I mean, you name it, and that person's been injured, and with a quarterback like Sam Bradford, he's good enough to win with the great team. He's not good enough to win with a bunch of practice squad players, starting on the offensive line.